In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
It's of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills,
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform.
Welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 handpicked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Amy.
And I'm Erin, and this is episode number 25, Back to School.
Back to school, Erin. It's time.
It's that time.
Mm-hmm. We are in the fall, sort of.
Getting there.
August-ish,
Yeah.
September-ish.
School time.
So really, we're talking about back to school. We're talking about adolescence. We're talking about that joyful and terrible time in the fall.
Yeah.
And often you're back in school when it's still super hot out.
Gross.
And I don't know about you, but some of my schools didn't have air conditioning.
Me
growing
too.
up.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah.
They just wanted to see how sweaty and hot
And
the
out
kids
of
can
control.
get. And
Did
how
they learn
bad.
nothing from Romeo and Juliet?
Right?
Temperature plays a large part
my
in
God,
violence.
It does.
Come on.
And how could you bear the smell if you're a teacher? Come on. All those sweaty kids in your classroom. Gross.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Terrible. Terrible. But great theme.
Oh, God.
Rife with material.
Such a great theme.
Right.
Yeah.
So, thinking about that, Amy, what was the best thing about school for you?
You know what? School supplies. That was it. Trapper keepers, pouches, bags, the good pens.
Yes.
Oh, God, that's glorious.
Did you love going school shopping?
I loved it. Now, we went clothes shopping too. I didn't like that part as much.
Sure.
The supplies shopping. Ugh, getting a folder with like a, whatever superhero was cool at the time. I don't even remember.
The
This is
unicorn
back in the time.
cat. Oh.
Yes. I did a lot of Star Wars folders because I was that kid.
I like it.
Yeah.
I support it.
Yes, but all the organization, like it should have showed me who I was going to be as an adult, that I loved it that much.
It shows also why we're ride or die, because
Yes.
I loved every second of it.
And going back to school as an adult, holy crap, school supplies are still the best part about it.
Yeah.
Getting
I
some
can
binders,
see that. Yeah.
getting some dividers.
I do that sometimes just for my office
Highlining.
stuff.
Yes.
I'm like,
I mean,
get this
look,
fancy thing. I
look
know.
right there. I have a shelf full of
Different
labeled
colored binders.
binders and all my schooling down there. That's that's a
beautiful.
big sign of who I am right there.
I like it.
Yeah.
You would be really disappointed to know that now school supplies are often a fundraiser for the PTO, and you order them in a box and they're in your kids' room. Yeah, because even if you choose not to do that, you can't pick stuff like that anymore. They say you have to get like 2 red folders, 2 blue, because they pool all the supplies together so that everybody has stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there's
Yes.
a reason.
Yeah.
It's a good reason.
Yes,
but
good
yeah,
reason.
it's totally taking the fun. Like even for Mason, who's going to be in kindergarten, I bought a box that'll be in his room.
So the future children will have no idea of the joy
School supply
that came
shopping.
from that.
Picking out those folders.
You know what was also great about school too? The Scholastic book catalog that came out.
Yes.
And back in the 80s, did you ever do the Book It program with Pizza Hut?
We were just talking about this, and you got that mini pizza. Oh my god, I killed that.
I did too. It was the only game I could win at and that I liked.
And you know what's funny? I was talking about this with my parents recently, actually. And I now, as an adult and a parent, I realize like that must have been annoying for you guys because I got a free pizza, but you had to pay for the rest of the family. Because I was doing it like once a week. I was like, cookies! And they'd be like, oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. It really just caused the family more money.
Yeah.
I was all about it.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
No.
Yeah.
And then my brother was a little bit younger who never got to book it. They'd still order him like his own mini because, he had to have a mini pizza too. Be like, mine's free. Boop, boop, boop. I'm the reason
Reading
we're
is
here.
fundamental.
Yeah, see? It taught me even back then, inherent reward.
Yeah. Oh, God. I forgot. Those were the 3 things that I loved about school. Everything else was a dumpster fire, but loved it.
You and I are so fanatical. Those are my top 3 favorite things. Hands down.
All the other
Hands down.
students, all the, forced stuff. Gross.
No.
Terrible.
Terrible.
So, thinking about adolescence, Erin, what's one thing you argued with your parents about growing up, but now, much to your chagrin, you realize they were right?
2 things.
Okay.
1, I'm a terrible driver.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, they were right about that.
Okay.
And they had all kinds of worries, and they were justified. I didn't think it at the time. And also, this is kind of before distracted driving in terms of a phone.
Ooh,
but I do remember one time I was driving like the family van, and I was coming home from some volleyball practice, and we had gotten popsicles or something, and my mom was horrified that I was driving and eating a popsicle. Ooh. And when I look back now, I remember thinking, why are you freaking out? And now when I know myself, I'm like, for obvious reasons, you are not able to do multiple things at once.
You're going to impale yourself with that popsicle stick.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought I was a lot better than I was. Yeah, it's not
So
good.
the cockiness of youth, you got over that and you realized that was right.
And now I understand that I'm sorry. It's okay. It's a fact. I'm a terrible driver. It has nothing to do with me being female. It has everything to do with just my driving skills are just not good. I have terrible instincts. I have terrible depth perception. So these 2 things in a car, I'm often like, and then, I think something's closer than it is. It's a lot.
You know, what's funny? I don't think I've ever driven with you because you mandate that I drive if we're together.
Yeah, most of the time.
Wow, this is
Because
all for
I love
a reason.
you. I don't want you to die at my hand. It's one thing to kill myself, but
although that worked out well with Heavesgate because
Can you
then
imagine?
if you'd been driving and puking,
we would still be on the
we'd
side
still
of the
be
road.
on.
We would have just had to
Months
start new
later.
lives.
Sorry, Erin won't stop puking, so we just got to put down roots right here.
Here's where we are forever. We built this tiny home.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and I admit it. And they were right. So,
All right.
Yeah. What's something that you wanted to do when you were a teenager, but now, or growing up, and now you realize was just stupid? Why'd you want to do that?
God, I wanted to have my own money. I wanted to manage my own money. I was like, that's freedom because then I can just buy candy and movie tickets all the time. However, in books, movie tickets and books.
Yeah.
However, once you're an adult, you realize, oh, yeah, I have to make money. There's no fun about it. And candy is a very minuscule portion of my monthly bills. There's other things.
It doesn't make up for when I write that mortgage payment that I got a bag of Skittles. It just doesn't cover it.
It really doesn't.
It should, but it doesn't. Yeah.
So yeah, the whole, being grown and having your own money seemed awesome.
It did.
It kind of blows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
What about you?
It's kind of related, but for me, it's grocery shopping.
Oh,
when I was younger, I thought that the possibilities. I could pick out whatever cereal I want. No one can tell me no. I can buy all the chips, all of them. I can buy them all.
Both of ours seem sort of food related, too. Yeah, well, not surprising.
Yeah. But it never did it enter my head, 1, that I'd ever look at the prices of these items.
Yes.
Or then 2, that when you do that for a family and then you come home and somebody says that's not the kind of chips that you want, that it makes you want to tear their head off. And that often grocery shopping for me is now related to cooking, which isn't at my top of my list, and planning. And it's just, it's one area I just really don't like. Yeah. And so now it's just not fun. It's not, I don't go in there and see possibilities. I just see dread, sadness, despair. I'm like, I'm going to buy this watermelon. I'm going to cut into it. It's probably going to be rotten.
And I'm just going to have to come back next week and buy all new groceries. Just
Or
never ends.
On my way home, I'm going to take a corner too fast and this milk is going to pop open to come back here in 2 hours.
It sounds like you say that from experience.
I actually have had a gallon of milk fall out the back of my car once I got home and spill all over the driveway.
Nice.
And it was in July, so I had to like spray it down. You can't have curdled milk on your driveway.
Ew, just ants all over it.
And I don't even
and, like,
drink milk, so it was like, I was just cursing everyone.
man.
Yeah, it was awful.
Okay, so the bad driving has come into play with the grocery shopping as well. All of them are tied together.
Yeah, all of them are
Okay.
tied together. Yeah,
Well, yeah. From a point of adolescence, adulthood sure seems cool.
it does.
I don't know about that.
And then you find out movie tickets, books, and candy.
That's just...
It's like 0.05%.
Yeah, those are optionals.
Yeah.
All the other mandatories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Okay.
right, well-
well, yay, adolescence.
Growing up is awesome.
Oh. Okay, so for fiction pick this week, I chose a book called Push by Sapphire. This is from 1996. Some of you may know this as the movie Precious that came out, I think, 2011, somewhere
Yeah.
around there. I wanted to start by this line from the New York Times Book Review at the point of release. It says, "What do you get if you borrow the notion of an idiosyncratic teenage narrator from J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye and mix it up with the feminist sentimentality and anger of Alice Walker's Color Purple?" I kind of liked that. I liked that mashup right there because that speaks a lot, I think, to this book. And I never saw the movie, I'll be honest, but this book, holy crap. Precious is 16. She's really living in a terrible, abusive home. There's some really rough stuff here, so just know that going in. And she's been out of school for a number of reasons. But she decides to go back to this alternate school in Harlem, led by this amazing teacher. And through some sort of painful processes, she learns to read and write. She's never learned to read and write up to this point. And because of that, she discovers the power of putting her life into words through poetry. She makes friends, many of whom have had awful homes and terrible experiences as well. And because of going back to school, because of learning, she becomes whole and she sees a way to potentially get out of her current reality and have a different life. And that's why I chose it for this theme. I like that idea of what learning can do. And even in this utter despair, this might be helpful to her. So one reason I really like this was her voice. Precious is the narrator, and for much of the book, it's told in her sort of unique language. But the voice is very fierce. It's very blunt. It's funny sometimes. It's dark. It's what hooks you in and keeps you going, even when she's going through some horrific stuff. And over time, her voice changes, which is really cool to watch as she's learning to read and write and get her thoughts out into the world. And like I said, because of the learning experience, not just school, I think that many books may focus on the school itself, you know, the high school, the junior high, the socialization of that school. But here, it's not that standard view. It's something different. It's much bigger, the idea of learning overall and what that means in adolescence. The act of learning is often very painful and frustrating, but it can be very revolutionary. And because of this, the world opens up to her and this whole other world of people and connections and family, all of these ways she can define things on her own becomes a possibility due to this. So a really powerful book. Like I said, some tough stuff to get through, but man, it is quite a ride and really makes you feel good about the whole school thing. The whole learning thing.
I read that and I forgot about it. And then when you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that would have been a great pick. What a good, great recommendation if you haven't read it. I also didn't see the movie, so I can't speak to that. But
and honestly, now that I've read the book, I don't know if I could have made it through the movie. I mean, I imagine it would focus on a lot of that really bad stuff, which, is very, it's in the book and it's there, but whew. It's like we said before, sometimes movies can focus on the visuals at the expense of maybe some of the interior stuff, some of the personal struggle, the story. I have a feeling that movie, maybe just out of, necessity, becomes that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I feel like sometimes it's easier for me to take it in a book because your mind can go there, but maybe it almost protects itself a little bit. Like you're not faced with the actual visual of that.
Yeah.
You can get into the mindset and get into the empathy mode without having to be devastated along the way, which is sometimes how it works for me. I just feel so,
Just
drug
hate
out from
everything.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good pick.
Thank you. What about you, Erin?
Well, I picked, it's a fairly new release, but it's called Mrs. Everything by Jennifer Weiner.
Oh, I've seen that on the book stands.
Yes.
In the book purchasing places.
Oh, well, I would imagine. It's a popular little title. It was published in June of 2019.
Okay.
So it follows two sisters, Jo and Bethy Kaufman, from their lives in the 1950s to the present. So it's a lot about their growing up. It's also centered, kind of why it fits for this theme, it's centered around them going back to school, first elementary school, what their summers are like, and then it's moving into high school and then college, the decisions that they make. So it's really so interesting because you're watching these two sisters, same family, kind of, we've talked about this before about perspective and how their experiences shaped both of them in their families, how they viewed their families, their relationship with each other, how their parents' relationships with each of them affected their relationships with each other. You'll tear through it. And that's not to say that it's not heavy, because I think that there is some very big, important things in here. And I will be the first to admit that I cried multiple times throughout this book, bawled at the end.
Oh my.
Yep. Really, really, really loved it. And I also really, really, really love Jennifer Weiner. And I wouldn't previously maybe have said that her books were like, of my favorite of all time, but I've always just really liked her as an author. I've always enjoyed her books. But what I really, really like about her is that she took something that could have been really defining and really box pudding, to kind of make up a phrase, and made something amazing out of it. So if you're not familiar with her, she wrote some of the like Good in Bed, In Her Shoes, very successful. She has a ton of books. And they have frequently been labeled as chick lit, which, chick, whatever that means. And because of that, she had been very vocal about the fact that she didn't, early on in her career especially, didn't get publicity, didn't get press, because it was somehow like this less thing, like a garbage book because it was chick lit.
Yes.
Which if you think about that for a few seconds,
it's
should
really disturbing.
Yes. And then it kind of morphed into this thing where like, and you might have heard this tossed around now. I hear this a lot, a beach read.
Yes.
Which means it's kind of like a fluff
Light.
book, like light, nothing.
And it's always women's stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she took offense to that. And when she really took offense to it was when Jonathan Franzen, who a fair amount of popularity, made a particular comment about this, about chick lit or being too vocal as a female. And she sent him a tweet and with a hashtag, and it took off. And what came out of it was actually something called VITA, which was established in 2010.
Oh, I didn't realize it came out of that. Wow.
Yeah. So VITA is an organization that does research every year on the major literary publications and reviews to see the disparity in gender. So how many of those are male and how many are female? Now, real quick, before we get into a statistics discussion, there is no world in which there are more men's books and less women. So you can claim that this is a statistical thing. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a lot of major literary publications. This is exactly what Jennifer Weiner was talking about in terms of Jonathan Franzen. Very easy to put your own book up there and say, oh, this is literary fiction.
Yes,
and it
I'm
deserves
a man,
attention
and,
because it's so smart and it has so many wonderful things to say. First of all, if you're not grossed out by that, pompous and disgusting. And frankly, Jonathan Franzen, I'm sure you're not listening because these are two females, but I don't read your books anymore because of that.
I'm the exact same way.
I
I'm
will
so
not.
glad you brought this discussion up because I don't read him anymore.
Yeah.
And I've been interested in her more because of this.
Because of it. Because taking a whole group and saying, well, that's like a beach read, but mine are more serious. Well, first of all, really? Second of all, really? Did you say that? You take yourself that seriously? And to me, she kind of represents what I think kind of the reason we decided to do this podcast and the reason why we kind of make the decisions that we do is that what you want to read is what you want to read.
Absolutely.
And if that interests you, great. If it doesn't, great. Find something that does. But saying that something isn't literary enough or highbrow enough is just doing a disservice to the whole entire publishing industry.
Yes.
And frankly, it's doing a disservice to anybody who's interested in reading, because being made to feel like what you're reading isn't good enough in the world that we live in, that we're fighting literary, statistics all the time of people not getting the access to books that they need, not getting the access to education, not being able to read as much as they would like. The fact that we're fighting that, and then on the other side, someone's saying, well, you can't read that because it's not important enough. Come on.
Yeah.
And if you are that small-minded to think that you can't get ideas, or you can't think about things more deeply or connect with characters because it's quote unquote a beach read,
then that's sort of a lack of empathy on your part, or it's a lack of imagination or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lack of being able, and I would say that probably what Jonathan Franzen means to say is he doesn't relate to female characters.
I think that's a big point. Because I think haven't there been criticisms about some of his female characters anyway?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot.
So
Yeah.
there it is, buddy.
There you go.
Yeah. You're absolutely right in that. And it's interesting we're bringing this up in the back to school episode, because I think a lot of us are still, and maybe people that don't read a lot now are still sort of scarred by that feeling in school of you have to be reading these books or you're not smart. You have to be reading this kind of literature, or else why are you even bothering reading? And if you like, genre stuff or something, well, then you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I would consider myself a very avid reader, and I read a lot of different things, and I never feel bad about it.
No.
There was, up until probably 2 years ago, and this is only because I don't have time, frankly, but I read every single John Grisham book that came out, and I wasn't afraid to admit that because I'm a sucker for a legal thriller.
Yeah.
So I would. Now, I got to a certain point where they just dropped on the list because I like other things more, but I never felt bad about that. I don't feel bad that I'm a fan of Dan Brown. I read his books. They're thrillers. You get through them. They're awesome. All of that writing serves a purpose.
Absolutely.
In every way. And to somehow say, well, this is more important than this is the exact thing I hate about art and about people thinking that they're smarter than other people and making people feel that way. It's just such a disservice to the whole across the board. I can't get on board with that at all. So.
Whew. Erin, coming in hot.
I came in hot. About a little education in the back to school episode. Came in fired up. Last episode we were talking about feuds.
Yes.
Ryan Murphy, do a Jennifer Weiner, Jonathan Franzen feud.
Damn it, yes. Ooh, that'd be good. I want to see a death match.
Oh,
like a wrestling
murder
match.
him.
Yeah. She's wily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think,
He'd just be so concerned with, himself and his importance.
Yeah.
We don't often call out people, but I'm kind of glad we called him out on this
I don't
one.
even feel bad.
No.
If you walked in right now, I'd call you out. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, Jonathan Franzen. I'd be like, what are you doing here?
I wouldn't even bother eating him. Remember the cannibal discussion?
Oh, yeah. No.
Hell no. I'd let him rot.
You'd probably let that. That'd be like some kind of weird infection thing.
It probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know you. You'd wake up and you'd be like, hey, why are you reading that? And I'd be like, oh my God, you ate Jonathan Franzen. What did you do? What have you done?
Let's be sure to tag him on our posts on this
Should we?
episode.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Because one of the things Amy and I said was that we always wanted to be positive and not tear anyone down.
We're kind of going down a road here,
But you started it, Jonathan Franzen. Not at me necessarily, but you started it. Just remember that. You started it.
You started it.
And I stand
a
behind
defense.
this.
That's a defense in court, right? You started it?
Yeah, that's
Sure.
called self-defense. It's a legitimate defense. Yeah, you started it.
Good point. Yeah.
You hit me, I hit you back. That's
Exactly.
self-defense.
Yeah.
You shot a gun at me, I stabbed you.
Oh,
Self-defense.
Is Jonathan Franzen bringing weapons to our...
I don't know
Oh,
what
God.
he rolls
Who
with.
knows?
He would probably be that guy that's
He
like,
probably
oh, you got what
would.
side of Des Moines do you live on? Ooh, I better pack some heat.
Exactly. Like I'm east side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your cardigan. I don't know why I think he wears a cardigan.
With the patches on his shoulder. Yeah.
And like
He
a
definitely
pipe
does.
and annoying glasses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe he kind of reminds me of the guy from AP Bio. The guy that just shows up, the
Oh,
teacher.
yeah.
Who's all full of himself.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I kind of end up liking him, so
Yeah.
that doesn't work. Just the
Wow.
jerky parts of
Yeah.
him.
Wow. We really took some time to dig in
All
there.
right. Woo! Jonathan Franzen.
Who knew we had a burn book and he's number one in it.
He's number one.
Yeah.
Now I feel a little bad because I made that big point about you read what you want and like what you want. And if you like Jonathan Franzen and you
for
enjoy his
it.
books, that is okay.
Yes.
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I personally don't, and that's okay too.
Exactly.
So-
Everyone's okay, Erin.
It's okay. Which is also a
Yes.
school message. It's okay.
It's okay.
Let's just be accepting.
Yes.
So what's your next pick, Amy? Bring us back to some acceptance.
You know, I have a feeling that he's an extrovert, and that relates to the book that I'm bringing up.
Okay.
And it's kind of a cheat because I mentioned this in our gift guide.
Okay.
But we didn't go into detail in our gift guide. So I'm diving in.
Okay.
This book is a nonfiction book. It's called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, from Susan Cain in 2012. So as I was remembering a lot of the things about the book this week, I was remembering like some sort of almost tests of yourself. Like, what kinds of things do you like? What kinds of things do you relax to? What kinds of things make you feel renewed, you know, at the end of each day? So like, if your idea of rest and relaxation is like a massive yacht party with celebrities to network with, that's probably an extrovert. If your idea of being at that party is mostly hiding in the bathroom to stay away from all of that networking and stuff, or maybe like reading in the bathroom just to give yourself, you know, you're probably an introvert.
Okay.
It's about where you draw your energy. Her point is, our society is sort of in thrall to this ideal of extroverts, the people that are very gregarious, that are very like alpha, very comfortable in the spotlight. These are the people that like our society puts up as the goals, right? And many of our schools, many of our jobs are dominated by this person who's often the loudest person in the room. We make them our leaders, we make them our bosses, our stars, and she sees a problem with that because she sees sort of a growth of over extroversion, unchecked, with a lot of people that are very focused on risk taking and boldness and quick thinking and thoughtless action. She even ties this to recent events like the bank meltdown of 2008, the fall of Enron. I wonder if she was writing this more currently, if she would attribute our current government to some of these people as well. She says that there's this ideal that we put up, but then there's the people who don't do that, who sit back and think before rushing to say something or to act. And she says that we should never feel bad about that introverts must embrace that fact about ourselves, embrace the fact that sometimes the fact that we take a little bit longer to think about things, or the fact that we like to, you know, ration out our social stuff is actually a really good thing. She says that, you know, introversion is kind of a power. And I chose this because there's a discussion around school in the book. She says that a lot of introverts as kids can be miscategorized as shy, that many school setups and learning styles may value that loudest kid, that quickest to speak, the one that's, you know, just raising the hand really quick or just blurting something out, rather than the one that's maybe most original or thoughtful or creative. So there is some in the book advice for parents on how to understand kids that are that way, or maybe even how to encourage that a little bit more. But I also chose this because older students, you know, young adults, adults themselves, they're facing environments based on this sort of group brainstorming and open office setups, which, as I've mentioned in the past, make me physically ill. So, you know, I thought it was super weird that I would always feel physically ill in an open office environment, or that in school I would be nauseous about group projects or having to get up and do skits and stupid stuff like that.
Right.
This book made me feel a little less lonely. So I would recommend it for parents of kids like that, for kids themselves, young adults, everyone. Know that you're okay, as Erin said earlier.
You're okay.
We're all okay. Just doing the best we can.
Yes, that's enough.
And that's enough. And you don't have to be the loudest in the room.
No.
To be the coolest.
No.
Ooh, that should be like our tagline or something.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the loudest in the room to be the coolest.
Dang right.
Maybe that's part of our theme song.
Ooh.
That we, you know.
Come up with?
Yeah.
I like it. Or the More You Know commercial we're going to make.
Yes.
More
you know. Oh, man. It's going to be great.
It is.
Yeah.
Changing the world.
So much.
Yeah.
I mean,
One
like our
takedown at a time.
I mean, you heard it here first. That's the power we have. Taking people down.
Yeah. Watch yourself. That's all I have to say.
Exactly.
Watch yourself. All right. Well, my pick, this is kind of funny, and it is, again, I don't know, sometimes we're a little too on the same wavelength. It's kind of a
Interesting.
cheat because I mentioned it too. but we didn't talk about it in detail, and it's just so perfect. It's called Spoiled Brats by Simon Rich. And I am a longtime Simon Rich fan. He's a humorist, so he writes humorous short stories, fiction short stories. This one was published in 2014. It's think like weird, wacky, hilarious, like SNL on steroids, like taking this tiny idea and just making a huge story out of it. And it's something you could never come up with on your own, but it's just hysterical. So great. And oftentimes too, there almost seems to be a little bit of this like, hey, I'm kind of trying to say something here too, but also just very funny. So he was a writer for Saturday Night Live. In fact, he was one of the youngest writers ever hired by them.
Wow.
After he left SNL, he went on as a staff writer for Pixar. So he had writing credit on Inside Out, on Secret Life of Pets. So like some of that humor, that's what you're going to get in here. The blurb for Spoiled Brats is that it's all about the battles we fight with the ones who love us the most, our parents. Yeah. So one of my favorite short stories in the collection is told from the viewpoint of a classroom hamster who's terrified when the worst possible kid in the class is chosen for hamster duty that week.
Oh, no.
And it's written kind of like, like an old time log, like day 2 morning. I was supposed to be fed 3 hours ago. He's sitting at his desk right now, picking his nose with a pencil. Like, just, that's not it, but it's so fantastic. There's also a story in there about a chimp who offends his father because he chooses to become a research animal instead of working in the family business. So this collection's all centered around, growing up, adolescence, parental stuff, making decisions. They're all hilarious. They're all a little bit kooky. If you are the type of person that you like your humor to push the boundaries a little bit, you like kind of getting out there, you're going to love this. You're going to really would love anything written by him, but you're really going to like it. If you're easily offended or you like your humor to be like real safe, like a real nice laugh track, like I don't want to laugh at anything weird, then this is not for you.
Do we have listeners like that?
I was kind of wondering because if that is, I'm questioning why you're listening to me.
Yeah. Because we probably do that.
Yeah.
We're not laugh track type people.
No, I mean, we definitely talked about eating people.
And we go off the rails regularly.
Yeah. Very off the rails. So again, I mean, it's so smart, so funny, so many great issues about growing up. Honestly, when I was prepping for this episode, it just made me want to read it again.
Awesome.
It's so funny. Yeah. All of his collections are great, but this one really speaks to this time period. So
do the other collections have themes as well?
A little bit. Okay. His most recent one that came out not that long ago deals more with like adult issues, like how it feels when you become a parent or making decisions about what to do about your career. And this one's really more centered on that adolescent school age. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's great. There's also a hilarious one in there about an elf on a shelf that I can't really discuss.
Mentioned that. Yes.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I like that idea from the hamster.
Yeah.
The things a school hamster could tell.
Funny. And it's so life or death to him and we never think of it that way, but like this poor hamster that's just waiting to be taken care of in this classroom full of what looks like monsters to him. God. Terrific.
Did you ever have good Lord, I can't talk. Did you ever have classroom pets?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever did. I think they were just like, these kids can't be trusted to do shit.
I have a very traumatic experience with a classroom pet.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What was it?
So it was like 6th grade in our science class. We had a salamander and the teacher asked me if I would take it home for the summer. And I was like, yeah, apparently I must have seemed responsible. So I took the salamander home. But as it turned out, the salamander had bulimia. And every time...
How did the salamander... Did he have fingers to put down his mouth?
He was like throwing himself against the rock because I'd like feed him the mealworms and I had to go get from like Walmart. So gross. I would feed them to him and then I'd come back 20 minutes later and they'd just be thrown up on the rock. And I was like, this isn't going well. And I just, every day that went like that, I got more and more scared. Like, what's happening? And yeah, he didn't make it. He did not make it. He died. And I have never really been recovered from that because I had to go back and be like, look. And I remember that year being terrified to go back to school on the first day.
Yeah.
And I think that my science teacher was probably like, I didn't really expect he was going to make it through the summer. Like looking back, she was probably like, What
She was probably
salamander?
she was probably just passing the responsibility on.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we need to kill this salamander anyway. Let a child learn a lesson.
Well, let's give it to Erin. She doesn't already have anxiety issues.
Let's traumatize a poor child.
Yeah, and I just I didn't know what to do. It was awful, and his little tummy got all bloated.
Oh,
It's traumatic to think about now.
I'm still trying to think about the mechanics of how he was making himself.
I watched him too.
Wow.
I mean, it was like having, you know, someone you care about having eating disorder. I felt like I had to watch him and be like, digest it.
Keep it down.
Yeah, and then I'd leave, and then when I come back, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? Yeah,
Goodness.
it was terrible. It was really bad.
I'm so sorry that you went through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the salamander's name?
I don't remember. I blocked it.
Did you put a little like gravestone in the backyard?
I mean, I buried him real nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
I felt really,
It's good.
really terrible. When I look back now, it's incredibly shocking to me that you ever convinced me to pick up mealworms and give them to him. I think I had a pair of tweezers now that I think about it. Because there's no way, like, I would never touch. I'm so weirded out by bugs that's such a. Actually, I would never have a salamander now. So I have no idea.
Do you think there was a time before the salamander where you were a young, carefree child and this salamander just
Ruined it.
Ruined
I was
all?
loving life.
Yep. And then you developed phobias around bugs, lizards, death, bulimia, too.
Bulimia, really.
Yeah, that's probably a good phobia to have. Yeah.
So congratulations on that life lesson, 6th grade science teacher. You really got that one.
Wow. That just seems like such a terrible thing to do, is give a child the
not smart.
responsibility of a small animal.
You know, to be fair, this is also the class that when we were in kindergarten, we had a very old school building, and the kindergartners for some reason were in the very top, and one of the boys in our class kicked our class hamster down all the stairs in a ball.
What?
Yeah. He was very concussed but lived.
Did he have bulimia after that?
Probably. I wasn't in charge of his care. I don't know the details.
Now I'm trying to imagine like the pet warehouse that's like, oh, the school wants another animal. Oh dear God.
No, they are terrible.
They're killing them left and right.
I remember that I was even like, maybe I should go buy another salamander. But then I was like, I don't know. What if he doesn't? What if, yeah.
You had the weight of the world.
I
on your
did.
shoulders
Now
back
looking
then.
back, I kind of laugh at myself because it seems so small and stupid. But I remember
God,
the
no.
anxiety
Yes.
of going in and having to tell her that I had killed in my opinion, I had killed the salamander.
I remember very clearly the anxiety of, in 3rd grade, I got detention for doing something bad.
In
And
third grade?
Yep. And I never told my parents. And all school year, I was petrified that it was going to be on my final report card. Like it was going to say something to the parents. I lived with a constant state of just stomach churning itself around.
Oh my gosh.
And then when I got the report card and there was no mention of it, I was like, oh my God, this is like getting out of jail. This is like getting away with it. I got away with it.
And that's where the drug mule was born.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then just a few years ago, I told my parents. It took me
Just
until
a
I
few
was
years ago.
It took me into my late 30s.
And like
to really
3rd
like
grade,
yeah.
I mean, what could you have really done? Like taking
I
an
made
extra
fun
milk?
of a kid.
Oh.
Yeah, it was mean.
Oh. Well,
I don't remember why I made fun of the kid. I
he
think
probably
because
deserved it. He was probably Jonathan Franzen.
It probably was.
You probably said something very disparaging about another female, and you were standing up for
I
them.
probably witnessed some toxic masculinity.
And then
was
what
like,
happened
no.
is you got punished for it instead of him.
Oh my God. Yes.
I just rewrote that history for
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel much better about
Good.
that experience now.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Pop culture.
Salamander story for you in there. That was great. What do you have for pop
Some of our
culture?
childhood traumas.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a nice tie, actually. My pop culture pick is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the show, from 1997 to 2002. Wow. Buffy is a 16-year-old popular girl who suddenly gets this superpower where she alone can kill the vampire scourge, threatening the world. And all that's all great and all, but she just wants to date boys, go to dances, do all the normal girl stuff.
Okay.
Instead, she's got a bag full of stakes and a librarian that's full of all the knowledge of the horrors of the world and sends her out on missions so that she can kill these vampires.
Yes.
Even worse, she falls for a hot vampire.
Oh, Buffy.
2, in fact. So what's a teenage girl to do? You know?
Nothing to do.
I chose this because Joss Whedon, the creator of this show, who's now gone on to lots of fame as the director of the Avengers movies and other things, he very deliberately set out this metaphor that teenage and adolescent drama feels like end of the world. Everything we do feels like the end of the world. You killing your salamander, me getting detention, end of the world.
Yes.
And so in this show, everything is actually the end of the world. So your first love being like the dangerous, soulful bad boy could actually threaten the whole order of the world. When you're having your first sex and that bad boy turns into a literal monster who could kill everyone around you.
That's a lot.
Your freshman year roommate steals your food from the fridge because she's an actual demon trying to kill you. See? It just keeps going. Everything is end of the world.
Yes.
So it's funny, it's dark, it's sad, it's super real, but it's also super fantastical. And what's great too is the show sort of evolves. You know, she starts out as a teenager, but then she grows into a young woman. And so some of the changes and the metaphors change, but it's really, really powerful how they do that. Mm-hmm. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Watch it now.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's a great pick for this theme.
Mm-hmm.
Fits perfectly. And it played right into our whole thing.
Sure did.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, my pop culture pick is called Trophy Kids, and it is a documentary. It was produced by HBO in 2013. I first saw it on Netflix. It's done by Peter Berg, who I love quite a lot of his documentaries. You can watch it on HBO still if you have a subscription. Otherwise, you can rent it from Amazon or Google Play. And the best thing I can tell you is that it is banana pants. Nothing makes sense.
What's great is you didn't just see how Erin leaned forward on the desk to really get into the microphone and say, listen, it's banana pants.
It's banana pants.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what banana pants are, I don't either. That's what I'm saying. This is insane. Okay? You're going to be enraged. You're going to be in shock. You're going to be in disbelief.
Wow.
Yes. So what you need to think of is that guy at the Little League game that can't stop.
Oh, no.
This is that times like 787.
Oh.
So this is all about parents who have decided that their child has some kind of special skill in a sport, and the lengths, they did this documentary, the lengths that they'll go. So you have, there's some golf in there, some tennis, some basketball, and some football. So it follows, I think, 7 kids. And their parents. I mean, we're talking about spending thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on special training. We're talking about making your kid do a second practice after his other practice just with you. We're talking about yelling, berating your children for missing, a serve. It is gross. It's hard to watch, but it's also, in my opinion, a very important look at that world. And I think that as a parent, if you're about to enter the sports world, it's something you should almost watch just so that you
can spot the signs.
Yes,
of other parents.
yeah. And also just to catch yourself, because I think that the sports world is one where it's really easy to get wrapped up in the hype. There's all these people that are doing things and they kind of sell that to you that, oh, that's what you have to do to get your child ahead, or that's what you need to do for them to even get to play. And all parents, want the best for their kids. And I think sometimes make decisions based on that without really thinking it through. And this is such a good look at that, but it's also a really important look at just the pressures that parents can put on young children, adolescents, and forgetting how hard it is to go through that, how much discipline, how much negative comments actually have an effect, and how that can really shape how they feel for a long time. Like I said, it is very difficult to watch because I have a really hard time with people like that. One of my older children wrestled in college, and there were quite a few times that I had to leave because I'm a pretty calm person until I'm not. And that is one thing that will trip my trigger every time, is listening to a parent yell and yell horrible things at a child, at their own child. It's awful. So I watched it actually before that, but like I said, I think every parent should have to watch it. You should, if you sign your kid up for a sport, they should send you a DVD of this and be don't do that.
Yes.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
And if you aren't familiar with this world, it starts early.
Oh God, it does.
It's not a joke. It's gross.
How old are the kids in this documentary?
I think the youngest is 9, but you see some clips of her before that, and it goes up to like 17. I think one of the football players he's in high school for sure. And they're doing this under the guise of like, oh, he's going to get a scholarship, and I'm going to propel him to the next level. And it's so self-serving, and
very much
it's
so.
just
And sort of living vicariously through your kids.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't mistake me for saying that sports are bad or that your kids shouldn't be involved. I don't believe that at all. Whatever your kid is interested in, if that's what you want to do and you want to support it, that's great. That is being a good parent. Supporting it is very different from forcing it. And supporting it is very different from putting such life or death hard lines on it.
End of the world stuff. Absolutely.
A kid doesn't need that kind of pressure with everything else that's going on.
I mean, we tore ourselves apart over a salamander and a detention.
Right?
You know that kids are, they're tearing themselves apart when they know that expectation is on them from their parents, from their coaches, from everyone.
Yes.
It's too much.
Yes, it is. And the sports world to me is very nuanced. And so I think that this is just a really important layer to remember about how to approach your kids about it, how to talk about it, how to deal with coaches, how to, when you feel I've been in that position a few times when you feel like you have to stand up for your kid, how you do that, and how you make sure that, they're still healthy. Because at the end of the day, that's really what you're supposed to be doing, is keeping them healthy mentally and physically. So,
yeah.
Man,
coming in hot again, Erin.
I'm just dropping some lessons today. I brought you to school. Erin's adolescent school. It's in session.
Some good things to say, some important things that needed to be said.
Yes.
So now you can go back to school fully aware and entertained and all the things.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's some good picks. And I think that's it for this episode.
I think so too.
We will be back next Wednesday. And in the meantime, head to our website, broadsandbooks.com. Check out all the recommendations we made in this episode.
Also, on that website, you can find some amazing bonus material. We got road trips.
Coming.
There's more coming.
Yeah.
There is more coming. Here's another thing. We would love, if you have something you'd like to know about us, some story you want to know more about, tell us.
Yeah.
We'll do a little bonus for you.
That's right. We're going to do some story time.
Yeah. Story time for you. Because school's back.
You want to hear about more traumatic experiences from childhood? Oh,
we got a truckload.
Plenty. And if you liked hearing about traumatic experiences and, Erin killing her salamander, her bulimic salamander, then hey, why don't you leave us a rating and a review in your podcast player, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a rating. Tell us what you like about the show.
And if you have a great theme idea, something you'd like to hear more about, a topic that comes to you, even if it's half-baked, send it our way.
Yeah.
We love to finish that kind of stuff.
I love to keep baking it.
We'll put it in the incubator and bake it up. I don't know why I went incubator.
Oven?
Yeah, incubator. What was I thinking?
Sounds like you're creating some
Oh my god,
horrible monster.
Oh, I don't know. Why would my salad? I was like, oh, okay. I don't know where incubator came from. We won't do that. We'll put it in a nice toasty oven, and it'll come out fresh and delicious. That's what'll happen to your theme idea. Okay, it doesn't have jaundice. It's not an incubator. You have to put babies in incubator.
You do, but you're not baking the babies, so I don't know. Oh, good Lord. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website.
In the meantime, happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and...
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
Cause their despair. I wait for the word. Which. Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.